The Talking Turkey Theology podcast begins in 3, 2, 1.
No turkeys were harmed in the making of this podcast. The Talking Turkey
Theology podcast. And now, here's Rodger and Øystein.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my good friend Øystein. Øystein, what's good and what's not so good?
Well, it's good that I'm sitting here talking to you. That's a very good thing. I enjoy that. And, I have good days most of the time. I enjoy my family, and I have a few people around here that I can connect with and chat with. Of course, I miss just being where I normally go to and meet the people I normally meet. So it's a strange time still. Norway is opening up more and more, and hopefully it will be able to move more around in a few weeks and get a little bit more back to normal, but we don't know yet. So it's still a bit confusing and strange, I guess. But how about you?
Yeah, I'm not so bad. I mean, I have my days as well. I have days where, I had a day on Tuesday where I kind of just woke up and I thought, meh. I had one of those days where I just woke up and thought, oh, dear me, do I really have to get out of bed? But I did. But it was just one of those, one of those days where you just can't put your finger on it. You just feel like everything's wrong with the world. And it probably is at the moment, but it was. I had to really dig deep, I think, that day, and I think that's okay sometimes. I think it's okay to feel like that sometimes. It's okay to, and just give it to God and say, God, I'm feeling this way, and I don't know why I'm feeling this way, and. So, I had a time where I just sat and I just was quiet and just, read some cool scriptures in my Bible and just sat and was with God, there wasn't any radical revelation from God, but it was just, it was just nice, and it was, and also the fact that you just don't, the feeling you don't need to fix everything right now. If you know what I mean? It's like sometimes we Christians, they think we should live in victory 100% of the time, every 24 hours a day. But I think it's okay just to lament. It's like a biblical term, lamenting. Being sad about things for a period and that's okay. It's actually okay. It's actually quite a lot in the Old Testament. I found out lamenting is quite a lot in the Old Testament, and it's you don't need to fix it straight away. You can just have days where you just think, okay, I'm sad about this, and it's okay to be sad about this. So,
That's a lot of grace right there. I guess that connecting it to the theme or the subject we're talking about today, which is perfectionism, I guess what you're saying there is the opposite. It's the grace to be able to just be where we are and accept how it is, and then God is what we need in that moment. And it's just nothing we can do really, except that seek him.
Yeah, really. And sometimes I get sick of perfectionism, and you want to be a rebel and you want to think, okay, I'll do everything not to be perfect instead. But I just had a couple of not funny actually. I had a couple of experiences just to share. You're supposed to confess your sins to one another. So I'm doing that to you now, Øystein.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, with relationships, it's really funny. It creates this whole coronavirus time. It creates new problems, new challenges. It also creates new possibilities as well. It's, I've seen people being incredibly creative online, what with online meetings and stuff like that, and just amazing things. But it creates challenges as well. And so like I was, I run a lot, and I enjoy my run, especially now where I can just get out of the house and I can just do a 2-hour run, 1 hour or 2 hour run. And that's totally okay here in this country to do that. The laws say you can do that. I know it's not the same everywhere in the world, but it creates new problems because when you're out and about, you have other people running, you have other people cycling, and you have other people walking. So I have this ongoing battle with cyclists, I think, at the moment.
Okay.
And they're not often that really good at giving, a couple of meters. We're told to like keep a couple of meters from each other. So, but I think this last situation, it was my fault. And I was running along the street, and it's like a very small pathway or walkway. And so I was running along this path, and there was a cycle path right next to it. So you have the walking path and the cycle path. And I was running along, and there I could see this guy coming towards me. He was just walking. So I was thinking, okay, I need to make sure that I give like a couple of meters for this guy and for myself, So without looking behind me, because, you should really look behind you when you start to move out, I started moving out. I started moving out into the cycleway.
Oh, yeah.
And at the precise same time that I started moving out, this cycle was right behind me. And I thought, this is so typical. The exact moment that I move out, there hasn't been a cycle, coming past me for the last 5 minutes. And the exact moment that I start to move out to give this guy space, and to give myself space, this cycle kind of like whooshes past me at like 2 millimeters. And like, I was stunned at the same time. So I kind of like I said to her, well, you could have rung your bell, I said it in Danish, of course. Yeah. You could have rung your bell. And she said, well, you shouldn't be on the cycle path. And I said, well, you have to give distance to people these days, I said. Yeah. And she said something, I can't remember what she said. And I said, you have to, maybe you don't know that you're supposed to give distance. I said it a bit sarcastic. I said it in a very sarcastic way. And then I thought afterwards, okay, maybe that was a little bit my fault. Maybe I know she should have maybe anticipated, she should have been cycling right at the edge of the cycle path, probably. But at the same time, I should have looked behind me. Yeah. And I could have stopped instead of just keep running. I could have just stopped so that everyone would have been happy. But there are certain situations like this where there's someone running towards you, walking towards you, and then there's a cycle coming, and you've got this dilemma. You're saying, you freak out, start freaking out. How are we going to do this? How are we going to have, because then you need 6 meters, don't you? Then you need, at least. Oh, yeah. And how do you do that? The path, the cycle paths and the paths are not built for social distancing. And by the way, I hate that word, social distancing. It should be called physical distancing, because we can still be social. Absolutely.
We can be social. Yeah. We're social now.
Yeah, we're being social now, and I'm I like to be social with people when I'm out running. So, and actually, it's not. That was just a funny thing, and Also, there was. What we going to say?
No, it's just that every time you said psychopath, I heard psychopath in my mind.
Oh dear,
a psychopath.
Yeah. Okay. I hope I'm not turning into one of those.
But go on.
No, and there was this. I was like, I went to the shop today, and I bought some stuff, and I put it up on the the transport thingy. Oh, I can't even speak English, today. The little the transport where your things go along automatically. Yeah. Goodness me, this is terrible. and I put them up, and the girl said to me, "Oh, can't you push them up a bit?" And I kind of like rolled my eyes a bit at her, as if to say, you know, the whole point of you putting it up there is that you can transport it along, you know. There's this magic thing called like a transporter bond. That's so funny. And yeah.
What did you say then?
No, I just actually I was a bit of a coward. I just rolled my eyes, and then I kind of like you know, after I was paying, I was just saying under my own breath, saying, well, I wouldn't hurt you to be a bit courteous in these days, you know. So yeah. All right. I'm learning.
One of these days.
Yeah. Actually, I think I have a bit from my dad, because he used to be really good at, you know, complaining about stuff. So,
well,
but at the same time, I also experience, when I'm out running, really happy people who are smiling and waving at me, and maybe that they weren't doing before. You know, people walking their dogs, people out running, and you get this really warm smile and a hi, and maybe you say, you know, have a good day or something. And that usually doesn't happen. So I think this can bring out the best and the worst of people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But what's more important, I guess, is what's happening with us afterwards. What's going on inside of us when stuff happens. Like we respond in ways that maybe it's not very gracious or holy. But the thing is, I used to beat myself up so bad if I felt that I had failed. If I did something that disappointed someone, or maybe I felt that, I should have done that better, or I could have said that in a better way, or maybe shown more love in that situation. And I would go maybe home and feel so bad about myself. Like, I should have done that better. I shouldn't have responded that way. And what does that person think about me now when I did that? And I guess this connects to what we're talking about, perfectionism, because I felt that I didn't do it perfect. I should have done it perfect. I should have done it better, more perfect, to show that I was mature, or to show that I had it all together. And if I didn't, I felt like a failure. I felt like, oh no, I missed the point, or I missed the mark. And maybe a mark that I had put up myself, or that I felt some kind of expectations that I should have done better. And I guess when it comes to, you know, how we respond to our own mistakes, I feel that's a part of that. You know, if we have a motivation, a drive inside of us to do things perfect, I think also we can judge ourselves harder if we don't reach that goal, or are able to meet those standards that we set. So that's my biggest problem with perfectionism. And I used to be like a perfectionist, wanting to do everything perfect all the time, especially when I was younger. And as a new Christian as well, I felt that when I became a Christian, it was all about just receiving the grace of God and His love and His forgiveness and His kindness, and it kind of flushed through me like a river that I was just able to receive it and give all my stuff, all my bad experiences and everything that happened in my life. I just give it to Him, and it was a time of just grace and favor and love and no pressure at all. But after a while, I felt that, now I have to be a good Christian. Before, I just felt I had to be a good person and do things well to impress people. And now I felt I have to be a good Christian. So I have to, read my Bible, and I have to understand all this mystery and get all this wisdom and respond in this good and gracious way and be be all the good things that the Bible talk about. And I failed so many times because it's hard to be perfect. It's hard to do things well all the time. But I still tried. And when I failed, I beat myself up.
Oh, wow.
So it was not really a good way of, I don't know. I probably hadn't understood grace quite yet. I hadn't understood what it means to just be who I was at that time, and letting God and His word, His grace, His love change me from the inside more and more to become more and more like the person God has made me to be. But I thought that I had to be all that at the same time, right there, right then. So it's and so we can have, as non-believers, we can strive to be perfect, to impress the world, to impress people around us, and to achieve a lot of stuff. But as Christians, I think we can also strive with perfectionism in the way that we want to show other people, Christians around us and God, that we've got this, and we're doing this as best as we can, and it becomes just some kind of strife.
Yeah, you're right, and what you're talking about as well as perfectionism, what I can hear is also legalism as well.
Yeah, it's the same thing, I guess.
Being legalistic about things, wanting to. If I don't do that, and I have to agree, Øystein, I'm still working on it, but I used to be afraid of like disagreeing with some other Christians, and especially Christians that I thought knew more about Christianity than me, or were higher up, maybe pastors or leaders, and and I would just some situations I would just go along and say, yeah, that's right, where maybe deep down I wanted to like disagree and have a discussion,
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, I think it's the grace of God and also age as teaching me to be more, also to be happy about my own opinion and my own convictions, and also that my convictions can be just as good as someone else's.
Yeah, definitely. And all those conversations I've had in my own head when maybe going to sleep, and all these talks I should have had with the people I had maybe discussed with earlier in the day, and when in this inside conversations in my own mind, I always had all these good arguments, and I could say it so freely and without any hesitation, and I almost always won the discussion, of course, because I had all these good arguments.
Yeah. If we could just do it in our head, then we'd be brilliant at it, wouldn't we? It's when it comes to reality, in real life, that we got the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We had this.
I guess. Yeah. Sorry.
No. What were you going to say?
No. Say it.
Okay. Good. Well, I got that. I'm glad we got that sorted out, Øystein.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that we sorted that out. And
yes.
There's a scripture, all right, that you tweeted out about. Yeah. And it's Mathew 5. So maybe we should have a look at that while we're talking about perfection and stuff. Mathew 5, Jesus, it's the Beatitudes. So Jesus is talking to a large crowd of mainly Jews. So it's people that knew the law, you could say. Yeah. And he says, "Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." Of course, there's more to the scripture than that, but we were talking about perfect in that regard. And I think a lot of the time as Christians, we look at that word perfect when Jesus is talking about perfection, talking about being perfect, and we're thinking, crikey, how can we ever do that? That Jesus, you're not being fair. That's impossible. And actually, I think if we look at the modern definition of the word perfect, then it probably is impossible. So what is Jesus referring to when he's saying, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on that?
That's the thing. Yeah, well, I have some. Well, of course, we can go to the original text and see what it means in Greek, and I think that's actually quite helpful sometimes, because if we read it just in English or in Norwegian or Danish, we see just the word perfect, and we have all these thoughts about what that means, because we interpret that into our modern language, and we have we think that perfect means to not do anything wrong. Like perfect means to be perfect, and that we have reached that goal of being perfect. And when we see the word Jesus is using here, it's I don't know how to pronounce it right, but it's teleios.
It's pretty good.
The English translation of the word, which kind of tells us maybe something what it means, is that it's like a goal more than a current kind of demand of what we should do. And it's important, I think, because the goal of being a Christian is to reach perfection. Like we're moving towards perfection. And one day, I believe, when Jesus comes back and he will make all things new, and we will be with him for all eternity, forever, there will be a transformation into a perfect being. Like we will be perfect.
Yeah.
And there will be no more pain, no more sorrow, no more tears, no more fear, nothing that kind of separates us from God. And this goal, I believe, is what Jesus is saying, that we should develop, we should reach that goal, we should move towards that goal, we should mature to that goal of perfection. And so what I believe Jesus is saying, that you, as my followers, as my disciples, you should never give up on that goal. We should always hang on to a way of living, that we kind of stay humble in our minds, in our spirits, in our souls, humble in a way that we are moldable, that we are formable, that we are being perfected in a way. So that's what I believe it means.
It's good to also look at the context of what Jesus, in the context of what he's saying as well, because he's speaking to a large crowd. He's speaking to Jews. He's speaking to ordinary people, but he's also speaking, what he has to say is also to religious leaders as well.
Yeah.
So there is, it's the whole, if you take the whole of the talk, you can see that he goes against religious leaders for being too religious, and also for laying down the letter of the law, because the religious climate of the time was very much affected by the history of the people. And also, if you go like a couple of centuries back, there was like a Maccabean revolution, which was like a physical revolt, but it also brought back importance on the law, and the laws of the Jews, and also to a more radical Judaism of the time. And that's why you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and and all this discussion about the law, that they really went up about the law. And I think, to a certain point, they were so concerned about the law that it was a fact of what could we get away with. It was like the religious leaders and religious people, I think, okay, well, if I they were looking for loopholes in the law. If I can, as long as I do this, what the law says, then it doesn't matter about this, or it doesn't matter about my mind. And that's why Jesus talks about other things as well. He talks about, murder. He says, like, even if you think, even if you've got anger in your heart towards another person, it's like you want to murder them, But, at least Jesus is talking about the heart, and the people are trying, they're thinking about, what doing and not being, if you know what I mean. And Jesus and God, their heart. And I've heard this before. God is a heart God. He's all about the heart and what's in the heart, So I think it's Jesus is almost challenging them. He's almost saying, he's almost challenging them. You've heard to do this, but I want you to step it up and do this. And my theory about that is that that it's not necessarily that they had to, like, okay, now we need even more laws. Now we need to do this. Or now he's adding to the law. No. It's a case of Jesus was like saying, you cannot do it on your own. No matter how hard you try, you're never going to fulfill the law on your own and get to heaven that way. You're just going to have to give up. You're just going to have to give up and lean on my grace. I think that's and that's the same for us. And so I think that's about this perfection here. And what you were pointing out is maybe more like on the side of sanctification. Yes. So you're thinking, that at a certain, when we are saved, when we start our relationship with Jesus and with God, then he starts on the process of sanctifying us, which means that, there are areas of our lives he points to, areas of sin, areas of bad habits and different stuff where he points to and he says, okay, I'm going to work on that. And God is good and gracious, and he doesn't, he's not like the devil who just points at everything and says you're a bad person. But God, he points at a certain thing, and maybe he starts saying, okay, I want to start with your thought life, and he works on that, and then maybe he says, maybe, okay, I'm going to work on some of your social behavior this week, whatever it is. Could be different things, but God is good, and he points on one thing, and what it is, and you think, okay, God, and you can repent. You can say, sorry, God, sorry I did that, and I want to work on that with you. And God works with us, with that, and that's that process of sanctification. But what I was thinking in this context, and actually you can use that verse about sanctification, but I think the main point of what Jesus was saying here is that he was announcing himself, and he was like saying, okay, you've heard this and you've heard that, but you have no idea. You've got to. If you're going to follow the law, you have to take it a notch up. And he was almost like cranking it up to the point where they would have to say, we can't do this, because they were quite happy. They were quite happy following the law, and they had their loopholes, and so they could still. There's the question of divorce and things like that. They could still do things that suited them as long as it fitted the law, but it still meant that they were unrighteous and ungenerated people at the same time. So they could follow the law, but still be in a state of unredeemedness, if that ever was a word. Jesus was like, he was raising the bar so high that the people would just realize, we can't do this, that we just have to cry out to Jesus, like the story of Nicodemus,
Well, that's good. I see that, maybe in the context and what Jesus is trying to say to his crowd, the people who are listening to him. I guess what's your perspectives there are more on point. But the word still is translated. When I see the Strong's definition, it's us being developed into completion.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual journey, like fulfilling a process towards an end goal, which is perfection. So I guess we could have the two perspectives in our hearts at the same time. But from what you're saying, I totally agree. It's raising the bar, saying this, you cannot do this on your own. Like it's impossible. You cannot earn your righteousness from doing the right things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I expect so much more, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's can only encourage us to call out to God, to say, Lord, I can't do this in my own strength. I need your strength. And like the difference between conviction and condemnation is just like you will kind of feel bad. Your whole being will feel bad, and it won't be specific. But when God convicts you of sin or of wrong thinking or whatever it is, it's specific, and he puts his finger on something, and then it might not be comfortable, but because God's good and gracious, he will work with us with it, and then it's for us to say, God, I can't do this on my own. So I think perfection is saying, I will work at it until I've got it sorted out. But the true meaning of being, completion or being complete or being perfect in relationship. This is very much about relationship. This is so being complete in our relationships, and I prefer to look at it that way.
That's good.
Yeah.
But coming back to where I started when I talked about striving and feeling that I had to do all these things when I became a Christian, and I brought my kind of perfectionism into my Christian walk. Something changed when I realized that I was being legalistic. I like you said, I tried to do this and be a good Christian in my own strength, and realized it because I was blaming myself, and I was kind of trying to prove I was doing better now. I could do this, and it just wore me out. But when I realized God's grace is what I need, not just to receive salvation. It's not just grace, now I'm saved, but it's grace all the way towards that goal, which is to become more like him. And it's based on what he has done for me, not what I'm doing to try to achieve it. The difference is perfectionism is based on own effort, strife, but being perfect and becoming complete is the work of grace. And maybe that's a good distinction.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's based on what he has done for us, not on what we can do. So I think that kind of sums it up pretty much. Really good, Øystein.
Well, we are a work in progress. And I believe that's when we realize we all have failures, we are not perfect. We can embrace each other's weakness in another way, and encourage each other on the journey, the spiritual journey. And that's the strength of community. And I believe that's why we need community, is because we can't do it on our own, and we can maybe come with our laments and our complaints, with a different attitude when we receive each other with grace, because that's where we find maybe comfort, maybe you can find hope, maybe we can find courage to overcome some weaknesses and do things differently in our relationships and how we handle situations, maybe in addictions we strive with, or have, is holding us down, maybe shame that we're carrying. I believe that, if we don't judge each other, or even judge ourselves, we can be more vulnerable and open toward each other, and that's where I think magic happens. That's where we can see the change that we are kind of striving for in a good way. Like we can see the transformation. That's where we have the ability to be open and show our weaknesses and receive strength from each other and from God.
Yeah, you're talking my language. I mean, grace to each other, and also I want to say as well, like the times where I maybe struggled with stuff. It's not the people that have come with religious suggestions, or I've come with like a legalism that have helped me, but it's people that have just been showing grace, in like radical grace, and we're to the point where you think, whoa, you just feel it's like a holiday for the brain. It's like when you experience grace from other Christians, and even if they don't know what you're going on, but you just feel this grace, it's just incredible. And it just makes you want to. It makes you want to change. It makes you want to be better, but not in a legalistic way. But in a just natural kind of way, and also I've gone through some tough periods in the last few years. What with losing my dad, and other stuff that's been going on. Even church stuff, but I'm so thankful for relationships with people. That have strengthened me and given grace through it. And I want to thank you as well, Øystein, because even last year, that I went through a period, and just your encouragement and your prayers and the words from you and your wife, and being together as well, that's strengthened and encouraged me. So thanks for that, mate. Yeah.
Same to you. Definitely, you meant so much to us, both you and Mette, your wife. So we're so thankful for your friendship, and I'm thankful to God for friends. I mean, we need friends. We need friends. We need people that know us and that know our weaknesses and are still there. So yes, thank you, Rodger, for being that kind of person to me. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's definitely mutual. So
I just wanted to say, if you're listening and you feel the pressure of trying to do your best and make things work, and you feel like you don't measure up, you can't do it, you feel like failing too often, or you should have done better. I just want to say grace to you, and that you should stop for a minute and just accept who you are, accept yourself where you are right now. Don't say to yourself, I should be better, or I should do better. Just say, I am where I am right now, and then just invite God into that situation where you are and say, I need you. I need your grace. I need your love just now. And I know that God will come and encourage and comfort you and guide you and give you what you need in that situation. So I just hope that what we're saying here, all these different perspectives we have and talking about perfectionism, it's all about wanting to clear the path and make the love of God visible for you. And I hope we have done that with some of what you said. So maybe we should just close there and say that it's been a pleasure. It's been good to talk to you, Rodger. And if you have any questions, any comments, anything you wanted to add or maybe correct, we're open to correction about this, about our theology or how we interpret things. If you just wanted to get in touch with us, we have our website, talkingtheology.com. where you can listen to this podcast or other podcasts. And we have our Twitter, Talking Theology, where you can write to us, and we would love to hear from you. So anyways, we will be back some other time with another podcast. So we just want to bless you and hope you have a good day.
Excellent. You said it so perfectly. Goodbye, everyone.